Hey there, badass dream makers. This is the Relationship of Your Dreams podcast. It's Alex, your badass dream maker host. I'm here because I believe that all humans deeply desire and thrive in loving relationships. And let me tell you, it's possible because many do find the love of their dreams and more. I'm just here as a guide to help you through the variety of obstacles and hurdles in dating and relationships so that you can also find the love of your dreams. And you're bound to learn about yourself as well. So, 2-in-1 deal. We will get deep here and you may feel triggered at times. Triggers and discomfort are part of a growth process. However, please use discretion as to how much discomfort you are ready for. Now, let's jump into this juicy episode and get you what you want. Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode. Today, we're going to talk about the big concept of trust. And we're going to talk about what trust is and what it is not in a relationship. So for a long time, I personally struggled with the concept of trust, as I'm sure pretty much everyone in the entire world has or does, right? It is not an easy one. There's the thought of like, well, if I trust someone 100%, like, am I going to get hurt? Like, I'm going to get hurt because I could never know what someone has done or what they're doing or what they plan to do. And I want you to keep in mind that that is true. It is true that you cannot know what someone has done, what they are doing, or what they plan to do or will do in the future. That is not false that we don't know that. It is completely true. We have no knowledge. Not no knowledge, but like, we can't just dive into someone's mind, and we also can't just predict the future. So keep that in mind, right? I want you to understand that trust isn't necessarily knowing. Not that it isn't knowing, it isn't knowing. So trust instead of knowing is actually believing. Trust is believing. Trust is not knowing. Let me give you an example. So I believe that my boyfriend will be loyal to me versus I know my boyfriend will be loyal to me. One, I can say with 100% certainty. I can say I fully believe him, that he will be loyal. That is not the equivalent of knowing he will be loyal. I don't know anything. Pretty much, this applies to all of life too. We don't know everything. We don't know most things. And even what we do know, if you think about the existential aspect of it, do we actually know? Like, how do we really prove something as true on this world? A little scary of a concept. Didn't really mean to get existential on you like that, but it does still apply here. So something that's scary about trust in relationships is that your partner is the person that's often closest to you. And that can make trust feel even scarier. So it makes trust feel even more important, but also scarier. In order to be intimate and vulnerable with your partner to your fullest potential, you have to trust them. And vice versa. It's a two-way street, right? So trust is really important in relationships because without vulnerability and intimacy, you aren't reaching the potential that your relationship could get to, and rather in place, you are putting anxiety there. So instead of letting go and allowing yourself to be authentic and vulnerable with your partner, you're constantly trying to live up with live up to certain expectations that you think will satisfy them and will keep them around. Instead, on the flip hand of that, is trusting and believing that they'll stay around, and that they'll stay around even if you are authentic and you're being yourself, regardless if you're making some funny weird noises because you think it's funny, but like you weren't sure if they were going to, or like there's such a wide variety. I don't want to get too deep into that, but point being, trust is really important when it comes to vulnerability, and vulnerability is really important in relationships, and most especially in your romantic relationship. I mean, yeah, I stand by that. So something else I want to talk about in relation to trust is... Oh, let's skip that. Okay. So when I say like the belief in someone, and how I gave the example of like believing they'll be loyal, so it's like giving the person the benefit of the doubt. Seeing the person as someone who is deserving of your belief in them as a human being and as a partner. So I just wanted to throw that little belief definition in there in case that wasn't clear. So, there are ways that you can increase your capability and ability to trust, to hold that space for trust, because again, trust is scary, especially in relationships, but they don't have to be scary. They start scary, but they don't have to end scary or be scary any longer. Something that I personally want to point out as a really big help for me, and I'm sure other people, is separating trust and reliability. So this kind of goes back to like the knowing thing. So let's say, go back to my original example. I trust my partner, so therefore I believe my partner. Not necessarily I know that they're going to be loyal. I believe they're going to be loyal, not I know they're going to be loyal. When you know something or feel you know something, you start relying on it, because when you know, it is fact, and something that is fact is reliable, right? So trust is not the same, as I'm making that distinction, right? So just because you trust someone, it doesn't mean that you should 100% rely on them either. And that is not in a way of like, oh, but still be careful. Like, that's not the vibe I'm trying to give here. What I'm trying to tell you is you yourself have the strength and individuality to do anything you put your mind to in your own unique way. And if someone does not do what you had trusted or believed they would do, you can still do that thing yourself, or you can still process the situation and be okay. Your well-being should not rely on if someone follows through or not. Your well-being is your own responsibility. I'm not saying that, let's say, I believed my boyfriend was loyal and then he went and cheated. I'm not saying that you can't be sad over that. I'm not saying I couldn't be sad over that, right? I will be sad for some period of time, but I have the strength to be able to process that. You kind of have to realize that you as a person, as an individual, have your own foundation. You have your own strength. So you are not, let's go to codependency versus being interdependent. So being codependent basically means that I'm completely relying on my partner to do absolutely anything, like any decisions, my emotions, like it's all on my partner. Interdependent means that we work as a team, but we also work individually as well. Interdependent is the way to go. So still, my recommendation is to work on your own foundation as an individual, separate from this relationship. Because the more you feel like you can rely on yourself, the less you're going to worry about relying on someone else. And the less you worry about relying on someone else, the less you need to know that someone is going to follow through. The more that you can believe instead of needing to know. Right? Making sense? Cool. I'm glad. So, just a reminder. You have the strength to handle a situation no matter what happens when you trust someone. And I hope this realization can help you feel more comfortable with trust. All right. Let's recap this information. Trust is not knowing. It is believing. It is believing in that person, giving the person the benefit of the doubt, seeing that person as someone deserving of your belief in them as a human being and as a partner. And there is a separation between trust and reliability. The more you trust, or the more you rely on yourself, the more you rely on yourself, the less you're going to need to know things, the more that you can just believe and trust. And I don't want to say just believe, but again, the less you really need to know. We don't have that anxiety to have to know something. Because, sorry to break it to you, but you're never going to actually know. Just gotta let that sit in. Gotta let it sit. And that wraps the episode. So, thank you for listening.